So I was 16 when I started using. I had a MRSA, and I ended up in the hospital for 4 days. And they prescribed 90 Vicodin, and I'd never tried drugs before. So to me, when I had those Vicodin, I started taking them as prescribed, but it quickly went from 2 to 4 to 6 and to 8, and then I started stealing them from my dad because my dad held on to them, and then I started smoking cigarettes, I started drinking, I started doing coke, I started doing shrooms, and yeah, I progressed from there, but I maintained high school attendance. I graduated high school, but after I graduated high school, my junior year, but let's go back, my junior year, they had, my drinking got so bad that they had to have my junior year of intervention. My music teacher intervened, and he took that year and made it so that I was not drinking. And then I graduated. The day of my graduation, I'd taken 2 Dilaudid, and I graduated high. And then after that, I had 2 years of sobriety. I got blessed with the son, but the desire for the pills never went away. It ramped up, and so after I got a vehicle, I started committing crimes to support my habit, my addiction. And so I ended up on probation for theft, and then I broke into my grandmother's house, stole from her, completely broke my family apart, and I ended up in prison again for theft. They dropped it down from a class 3 burglary to a class 6 theft. So now, because of the drugs, because of my actions on the drugs, I have a criminal record. I spent a year in prison. I got out of prison, and then immediately started messing up because my dad had hydrocodone at the house, liquid hydrocodone at the house, and it wasn't even a week, and I was already using drugs. So when I was 24, I started using methamphetamines to help me get off the opioids, and everything just got worse. I kept getting high and kept getting high, and I was on the streets. I decided to live on the streets because being at home, being around my family, it got in the way of me getting high. It got in the way of my goal of not having goals, my goal of not, and I'm not gonna say that I had goals before, but I had some goals. I wanted to go to college, I wanted to go to university, I wanted to start a career as a restaurant manager, and the drugs took all that away. And then it got worse. It got worse because I wanted to be around my kid, but I knew that that my drug addiction was not conducive to a healthy child, so I kept myself away. And then because of my actions with the criminal activity, I had people following me, I had people wanting to kill me. I ran all across the United States, and I couldn't find a moment's rest. There was moments when I was clear-headed enough to realize that I had a drug problem, but not clear-headed enough to do anything about it. I had no desire to quit using drugs. I had no ambition for living, and it quickly escalated to that point. And then 4 years ago, I started hearing voices. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't hydrating, I wasn't taking care of myself physically, I wasn't taking care of anything, but I wasn't taking care of my mental health. 4 years ago, I started hearing voices, and then it got progressively worse. They would tell me that I was a no good dirtbag. They would tell me that I should kill myself. They would tell me that my family hated me. And I lived that way for 3 years. And it was the worst. It was the worst. And then I ended up in jail. On 11/20/21, and this was my second. This wasn't my second time in jail, but this was my second time facing prison. The first time I only did a year. The second time they threw 7 years at me. They wanted to put me away for 7 years, but because I'd had all these run-ins with psych hospitals, they saw fit to put me on mental health treatment court. And I can't blame anybody but myself for my actions, for my behavior, because I had a good family. I had a dad that took interest in my education and made sure that I got an education. I had a mother, and they both worked, but my mother decided to further herself, and she got a job as a paralegal and got her high school diploma, because my mom's from Mexico, and she got her citizenship. She furthered her education, and the rest of my brothers and sisters, they're sober, they're clean, they're living their life. I'm an uncle. To see my son the other day, on Saturday, they brought food to the house. He's 11. He's in 6th grade. I want to be there for his first day of high school. But I want to be there as an adult. I don't want to show up and be like, I want to be his dad. I don't want to be somebody that just shows up sometimes. It still feels weird when he calls me dad, because I wasn't in his life, and my mom is really supportive of me. I hurt her the most, I think. I'm sure that I hurt her the most. But I have a relationship with my son. I was writing him in jail. I was writing everybody in jail, and it's not because I felt that I had to. I wanted to. The thing that I wanted the most during my addiction was my family. I wanted to feel like I was part of the family instead of being isolated all the time, which is how I felt. Rather than address the core issues within myself, I chose to do drugs. One day I was really high, and I was living in the laundry room, and I broke a couple pipes, and my mom said, "You know what, I've had enough." I broke the pipes because I was high and I couldn't process my emotions. Right? And then, so my mom showed up. This was the second time that I broke the pipe, and she showed up and told me, "You know what, I've had enough. I don't know, I want to help you, but I want you to want to help yourself." And that day, more than any other day, I was really receptive, because I had just walked 11 miles out of town. The voices in my head were telling me, "Go out here, go to this person's house. That's where we're gonna take you, and we're gonna kill you, we're gonna bury you, we're gonna dismember you, we're gonna maim you, we're gonna eviscerate you, and we're gonna do all kinds of harm to you." So go out here. So I walked 11 miles out of town rather than say, no, there's something wrong with me. I walked 11 miles out of town, went to the house, nobody answered, and then had to walk 11 miles back. This was a winter. I had to walk 11 miles back. And the thing that I heard that they lobotomized my best friend. And she's probably the most uninvolved person in my life. She's still my best friend, but she's uninvolved in my drug life. And for me to believe that she was lobotomized, somebody that shouldn't be getting hurt is a big problem. I think we forget that as addicts. We forget that people that shouldn't be getting hurt are getting hurt. We don't see the damage that we cause, because addiction isn't a singular issue. Addiction isn't wholly my life sucks problem. It causes everybody's life to suck. The people around you, your family the most, they suffer just as much, if not more, than we do. And there's nothing that they could do about it. All the power lies within us. We have to decide. We have to choose to better ourselves for ourselves. There's nothing that they could have done that would have helped me. There's nothing that they did do in the intervening years that helped me until I had that moment when I'd had enough of the voices. I'd had enough of my behavior. I'd had enough, and it was because I believed that they lobotomized my best friend. And my mom said, I want to take you to this hospital. I want you to go there, and they're going to help you. And my mom's told me that, and I thought that they were going to euthanize me. I firmly believed that they were going to euthanize me because for the last 3 years, the voices kept telling me that they were going to hurt me, that they were going to hurt my family. So I believed that they were going to euthanize me. And I was okay with it. I didn't want to be alive anymore. I didn't want to suffer. I didn't want to suffer, but most of all, I didn't want to make my family suffer. I didn't want to continue the cycle of suffering that I had started. So I agreed. I agreed to go, and they diagnosed me as manic depressive with psychotic features. They put me on meds. They kept me there for 9 days, and on meds I calmed down. But there were still moments when I would be, especially early on, when I would be psychotic still, and I ended up at that same hospital 8 different times, trying to rack up sober time, but not wanting to do the work. I wanted to be sober, but now I didn't want to go to a program. I didn't want to do whatever it was necessary to be sober in a lasting way. And I ended up on the streets again, off meds, and I ended up stealing a van on drug probation. So they offered me 7 years, and I spent a year in jail. But it was cool. I'm grateful for that because I spent the next year on meds. I spent the next year restructuring my life so that I can work a program now successfully, so that I can take whatever measures are available to achieve continued sobriety. I've been years and 24 days sober, and it's the most I've been sober for within the last 10 years. Even though every day that I was high, I wished I was sober. I wished I was sober, but I wanted it now. I didn't want it. Progress isn't measured all at once. It's measured in increments, and sometimes we don't see the increments because we're too busy trying to look at a bigger picture. But no matter how far removed we are from our lives, we never see that bigger picture because it's way too big. It's way too big. Our higher power sees it. Our higher power sees it, and sometimes he allows us to see it, but we have to be ready. We have to be taking care of ourselves, managing our own problems, not trying to manage other people's problems, and I understand that today. I'm still struggling with, even though I've been a year sober, I'm still struggling with being sober outside of a jail setting. Yesterday, I had a moment where I called my friend, and I can call him a friend because last night I asked him for some fentanyl. Because I used to get fentanyl from him, and I asked him for some fentanyl because I wanted to use, and he said, "No, I don't think so. I think you're good where you're at. I think you need to work your program because you've been wanting to work your program for years. You've been talking about it for years. You wanted to be sober, so why are you going to mess it up? You're in a good place. You have your kid, you have your family, you're progressing. You got a year clean and sober, but that craving, I still kind of feel the craving. So I got to work through it. And if I don't work through it, I'm gonna relapse. I know that. So I attend AA meetings. I attend Smart Recovery. I'm learning to work with the probation department. I play the guitar, and I used to play the violin. So my roommate has a guitar, and I try to play that sometimes. I should go out and exercise like we were in jail, but so far it's been really cold and I haven't done that. I've been busy with the center too because I have to be here. They encourage us to come to Smart Recovery at 6:30 a.m. that starts, but I have to be here until 7:30 p.m., which makes for long days. But it keeps me busy because if I wasn't busy, I'm liable to go out and use. And it's that simple. There's no thought. There's no these are the actions that lead up to. And there is because the relapse starts long before you actually relapse. It starts with the thought of glorifying your past use, and all of a sudden the old days don't seem so bad. All of a sudden your loneliness and your depression, they're gone. All you remember are the fun times when you were hanging out with your friends and everything was carefree and wonderful. But you forget that it wasn't. You forget the struggle that you had, and you spent the years missing from your family. But it starts with that, and then it progresses to one thought a day, 2, 3, 4, and then next thing you know, but yeah, it progresses, and sometimes it's fast that the craving phenomena happens. So I have to nip it in the bud. I talk about it the way I am now. I talked about it at the meeting that I went to earlier. I've been having a problem with opening up, maybe opening up too much sometimes. But if I don't open up, I can't. I used to hold everything in, so it's part of the isolation.